Hey everyone, welcome back to Smart Architectural Programming, your go-to channel for mastering Java with architectural clarity. If you're reading along with our companion book, Introduction to Java, you're at the right place, and if you're watching from our YouTube. So, without further ado, today we're going to dive into a concept that trips up a lot of Java beginners and even intermediate coders. That is upcasting and downcasting. And it's somewhat related to object-oriented programming, and let's kick things off with upcasting. What is upcasting, right? So upcasting is basically casting a subclass to a superclass. What do we mean by that? If you look at the code here, and let me bring in my trusty little pen here. Alright, so now that we have that pen, here we have a class called animal, as you can see here, and a subclass called dog, which extends from animal. And I'm sure you're familiar with the extent syntax now, because we've been covering this multiple times in the previous videos. If you haven't, please go far back and look over all the object-oriented related videos. And if you're following along with the book, start over from the first video on chapter 9 and read through chapter 9. So when we do animal my dog equals to new dog, right? When we basically create a new class, we write animal, A stands for animal, then we write the name of the new class, which is my dog. Let me see if I can use text here to show that better. Let me see, give me a second. Yeah, I don't think we have text here, but the way you can look at it is we have let me see if I have that. Yeah, here it is. So we have animal my dog equals to new dog that you see. This is the thing that we're talking about here when I'm talking about upcasting, right? This is the code that you need to understand for now. So in this code, we're upcasting. This is safe and automatic in Java because dog is an animal, right? And we know exactly what we're doing here. We're casting a subclass into a superclass. But there's a catch. You can only access methods available in the superclass. The bark method in the dog is not accessible until you cast it back. And that's where downcasting comes in. And let's look at downcasting here, right? Downcasting is casting a superclass reference back to a subclass. So upcasting is when we're referring to a superclass and casting to a superclass from a subclass. And downcasting is when we're casting a superclass reference back to the subclass, right? So let's look at this piece of code here. Here we're writing dog, real dog, and dog, my dog, right? That's the syntax for downcasting. We're telling the compiler, trust me, this animal is actually a dog. Let me use dog specific methods. And yes, now you can call bark method, as you can see here right below. So the matter at the end that we need to understand here is that with upcasting, that's a normal procedure to a large degree when you're instantiating a subclass, right? With downcasting though, that's a different procedure than upcasting, and it's not something natural to a degree that you have covered object-oriented programming till this point. It's a little bit unnatural compared to the normal instantiation we do in OOP in Java. So upcasting is usually the normal way, and downcasting is the not normal way basically, but you get the gist here. But you need to remember there's a especially important aspect to this, which is a class cast exception error that might come in. Downcasting usually throws a class cast exception if you're wrong about the object type. So here you can see we're casting dog, not a dog, dog, my animal. So we're downcasting an object we don't know, we know it's not a dog, right? And what happens is if basically what we're trying to do is we need to always check the type first with the instance off to avoid any surprises. So we check if my animal that we instantiated here is an animal, right? Using the instance of keyword. If we do not confirm that, it's going to cause a class cast exception error. So let's see what is the difference between upcasting and downcasting. A quick summary, right? So upcasting is a subclass upcasting or referring back to a superclass, and downcasting is a superclass referring to a subclass. Now here again I'm going to mention, if you remember, I talked about the fact that upcasting is normal. That's the normal way we usually instantiate objects, right? Where or subclasses, where we have a subclass that extends from a normal one, and then we instantiate that subclass. Simple enough, because we're telling the compiler, hey, this is a subclass of that particular object, create that object for us, right? But in downcasting, the superclass is basically referring to the subclass, and generally speaking, the normal procedure is for superclass to refer to a subclass basically. But again, downcasting is the opposite. Superclass refers to a subclass, while upcasting, subclass refers to a superclass. Upcasting is implicit, as I mentioned. It's normal. You just when you write down a normal procedural instantiation in object-oriented programming, it's implicit. It's you don't need to explicitly tell the compiler that you're upcasting, right? But with downcasting, you need to explicitly tell the compiler, hey, this is where I'm downcasting. You remember that basically, and you tell the compiler, hey, the superclass must refer to the subclass in this circumstance, right? And that's basically how it works. Then we have the third thing, that upcasting is safe, because upcasting is safe because it is implicit, because it's the normal way to do it. So compiler has basically made it very, very simple and intuitive, right? With downcasting, it's risky because it needs to be, it causes a class cast exception error if you don't make sure that the superclass or subclass are of the same type, right? If the subclass is of the same type as the superclass, right? So that is why you always need to use the instance of keyword to make it safer to use. With upcasting, you always have limited access, right? Because the subclass can access the superclass, but the superclass can't access the subclass. But with downcasting, you have full subclass access for the superclass. So that's where so what's the big picture at this point, right? Use upcasting when you want to work with general types like list, shape, or animal. It's great for polymorphism. Use downcasting when you need to access to a subclass specific behavior, but only when you're sure of the object's actual type. So let's look at a real world example here. So imagine an animal shelter system, right? You upcast all the pets to animals so the system can treat them uniformly. But when you need a dog to perform a bark, you downcast after checking the type. So it basically is simplifying your intuitive visualization of this concept. This chapter in Introduction to Java lays the foundation for polymorphism and type hierarchies. Mastering upcasting and downcasting is essential for building flexible object-oriented systems. So a quick recap of what we covered in this video. Upcasting is when a subclass refers to a superclass and is safe. Downcasting is when a superclass refers to a subclass and is risky. We use instance of a keyword for safety reasons when we're downcasting. And it's essential for polymorphism in Java. You're watching Smart Architectural Programming, where code meets clarity. Keep building and keep learning. If this helped clarify the fog around casting in Java, drop us a like. Have questions or need more examples? Comment below. We reply to every thoughtful one. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification so you don't miss our next video whenever we post it. And that is coming on soon.